Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studios here at Kokomlemle in Accra on digital address GA0993341 on Joy 99.7 FM. It's also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by Telesol 4G, just a touch. Coming up,
some men dressed in uniform, fully armed. They were marked up, went into the PC's house, demanded everybody to come out. Lo and behold, some of the NDC guys were able to recognize about 5 people. One was able to say, this guy is a bouncer at Nima. The first thing we heard was 2 warning shots in the air. Papa, we that were in the neighborhood, we have to just run away for our lives.
24 hours after yesterday's election violence at Bawaleshia, the Yawaso West Wogon constituency, we are back on the ground and hear from residents on what happened. Meanwhile, there are mounting calls by civil society and the minority for the Interior Minister and IGP to answer questions about the perpetrators of the violence.
I would be asking relevant questions from the IGP. Absolutely. Any briefing from the police which doesn't capture happenings at Yawaso West Wogon would, in my view, not pass for a proper brief.
Also coming up, US steps up its standoff with Ghana over deportations a notch higher as it imposes visa restrictions on Ghana over what it says is the country's failure to cooperate. We'll bring you details as Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee summons the Foreign Affairs Minister over the matter. In sports,
no, it's a busy weekend for Ghana sports. Richard Comey will be fighting for a world title in the United States. Kumasi Asante Kotoko will start their CAF Confederations Cup campaign in Sudan, and the Under-20 team will kickstart their 2019 Africa Youth Championship. All the details wrapped up in 20.
And that's all coming up here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. We settle for the details now, and there are mounting calls by civil society and the minority for the Interior Minister and IGP to answer questions about yesterday's violence in the Bawaleshi in the Yawaso West Wogon constituency by-election. Police say 6 people were injured after masked men stormed the residence of the NDC candidate Delali Kwesi Brimpong in the morning. The NDC pulled out from the contest, citing intimidation by NPP thugs. We'll hear from civil society on this matter shortly, but first, Fifi Kumsen has a wrap of what transpired yesterday.
It was meant to be a peaceful poll, but sadly, it took on the form and nature of an unhealthy expression of the civil rights of citizens. Masked men, shootings, fractures, fisticuffs, shouts of war from angry supporters ready to shed and lick blood.
In his own house. His own house.
I've seen 2 deadly ones in Côte d'Ivoire. I know what words can do. Are we ready? Answer some gun. Are we ready for war?
But the aftermath of this state of affairs is as worrying as the incident itself, with the 2 main political parties engaged in a blame game. The NDC.
Intimidation by invisible forces who have been given national security uniforms and who are intimidating, shooting, and maiming people.
The MPP.
You see, this is the impression that our opponents want to create in order to scare people from coming to vote.
The police service says it knew not the men blamed for the chaos. Director of Operations of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP George Mensah.
We need to investigate to see those who actually came, whether they were policemen or from the national security or wherever they came from.
But I'm asking, is it professional? So you are denying that they are your members?
I'm not denying anything.
No, but you say you don't know them.
Yes, because all my men are not masked.
So by extension, you are denying that they are your members?
You don't put words in my mouth. I'm telling you that my men are not masked. They are police.
This may have been the situation in a single polling station out of over 130. But it raises questions about the level of maturity of a democracy described as one of the best on the continent.
So one is not happy at all with the heavy the security presence. Then secondly, there's this thing also about people wearing masks, going around polling stations. And it is not good for election. What are you doing with a mask? You are a security officer going around monitoring what is happening. So why are you in mask?
And what the nation has heard so far from its president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is a loud silence on the matter. And the man others consider an alternative, a presidential hopeful of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, will not call for cool heads, but would rather sound a warning of more violence in the future.
We are not going to joke in 2020. And I'm sounding a warning to the MPP. We're going to match them boot for boot.
But while the nation's two main political parties work to push their own agendas, there is a reality that, in the event of a wider chaos, the people beating the war drums today will be hiding with their families, while ordinary people suffer.
So that's a wrap of events yesterday. Well, 24 hours after that incident at Bawaleshi, checks by joining show bullet wounds in trees and buildings in the area. We are back on the ground to hear from residents on exactly what they saw. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking to some of them and reports.
We currently here at Bawaleshi, some meters away from the residence of the NDC parliamentary candidate. Well, if you come here this morning, we've counted quite a number of vehicles that have bullet holes on them. There's one vehicle parked very close to the house of the MP. It is a Kia. It's a Kia vehicle, actually, 2017 registered, and there's a bullet hole right at the top of the vehicle. Now there are about 3 trees here. Also, we've counted many bullet holes on them. There's a warehouse just opposite the house of the parliamentary candidates. That one also has a bullet hole on it. Also, another container. There's a woman who sells in there. Counts 1, 2, 3 bullet holes on the container. We've been trying to speak to some of the residents here. There's a gentleman who witnessed how it all panned out, here.
So I got here exactly 8 a.m. and I saw the NDC sympathizers, or the NDC supporters here, and I had to question them because I saw friends of mine in them. So I questioned them, like they were here to just protect ballot boxes. I was okay, fine, well, that's their work to do, since they're all NDC guys. Before we could say that, we saw some men dressed in uniform, wearing the NSC, that's the National Security Council uniform, coming fully armed. They were marked up, went into the PC's house, demanding everybody to come out. Lo and behold, some of the NDC guys were able to recognize about 5 people. So after this recognition, that's where the confrontation came in, that you people are not any security forces. So you don't have any right to come here, especially to our PC's residents, to cause any commotion. I asked one guy, and I was like, they know them. One was able to say, this guy is a bouncer at Nima. He's not an security personnel. Before we could say that, the first thing we heard was 2 warning shots in the air. Papa. And then the NDC guys had to retaliate. So they started throwing stones at them. To be honest with you, they threw stones at them just to make them move away from here. Okay. The next thing was serious gunshots coming in here and there. And we that were in the neighborhood, we have to just run away for our lives.
You have the residents of Bawaleshi interacting with my colleague Maxwell Agbagba. Meanwhile, there are mounting calls by civil society and the minority for the Interior Minister and IGP to answer questions about the perpetrators of that violence. Minority spokesperson on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga, wants a bipartisan parliamentary probe into yesterday's violence at Ayawaso. He says the committee is meeting the IGP this afternoon to quiz him. He, however, says he's afraid the police will cover up the issue, hence his call for a bipartisan probe. He spoke to my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gagbo.
Those men beat up our colleague in the full glare of the police. Nothing whatsoever was done, and yet the scenes were captured on video. So we'll be asking relevant questions. From the IGP? Absolutely. And about the general security situation in our country.
Is this issue actually on the agenda?
Any briefing from the police which doesn't capture happenings at Ayawaso West Wagon would, in my view, not pass for a proper briefing. Under the police regulations, service regulations, an officer is supposed to have his name tag displayed. His badge of authority is supposed to be displayed. If a police officer goes to perform duty without the name tag and the badge of authority, the person has committed an offense under their regulations. Did you see their name tags? Why were they hiding their identities? What happened yesterday, seriously speaking, is the height of insecurity in our country.
So you heard there a member of the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament, James Agauga. He's also a former Interior Minister, speaking to my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Let's head to Parliament because we're told that the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu attempted raising the issue of the assault on Sam George on the floor, asking for the summoning of the Interior Minister, but it looks like it was shot down. Joseph Opoku Gakpo has all the details and joins us on the line. Joseph, so what really happened? Hello, Joseph. You would have to reposition yourself. Your line is cracking up a bit. Joseph, can you hear me now?
Okay. So the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu tried raising the issue on the floor to draw the Speaker's attention to the incident. At the time, George was on the floor. He came a little late, but after he came in, that's when the Leader tried raising the issue. The Speaker indicated that they would have to do some additional consultation on the issue before a decision on that can actually be taken. The member for Limgo Pram Pram, Sam George, I spoke to him after the from the timber. He said he is the Speaker. He's seen the situation where the Speaker is not prioritizing the welfare of members of Parliament, and for him it's out of place, and he thinks the Speaker should have given a favorable ruling on that. The Minority Leader himself has also been speaking to journalists outside Parliament on the issue. He says they would not recognize the outcome of the election because it was characterized by violence. And for him, he indicates that they on the minority side are not exactly going to support the idea that Lydia Hassan would come to Parliament in the end. I asked him whether they would probably boycott the processes when she has to be sworn in. He declined specific comments on that, but his colleague, Inusa, the ABF Husseini, rightly indicated that they, the minority, would not be part of any protest to bring in Lydia Hassan to Parliament as a member because the election was flawed.
So what it is that they would not recognize the newly elected MP. Is that what they're saying?
That's exactly what the minority is saying, and they say for them there was no election in Ayasu Wagon yesterday, and so there is no member of Parliament elect who would eventually be sworn in. But the minority leader himself indicated that what they were trying to draw the Speaker's attention to with the assault on Sam George is an issue that he's not letting go, even though the request wasn't allowed earlier in the day. He said he would raise it again on Tuesday. We gather from some members from the minority side again that the Committee on Defence and Interior is meeting this afternoon, and the Inspector General of Police and his men at the top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service are expected to be in that meeting. We gather it's a pre-scheduled meeting that was supposed to discuss general security issues, but they will be raising the issue having to do with the assault that happened yesterday in the Ayawasu West.
But you've been interacting with Sam George, like you said earlier. How is he doing after that slap and hefty blow?
He says he's fine fully. He says even before he got to Parliament this morning, he had to go to the hospital for some checkup and some additional medication, which is why he thinks the Speaker should have actually prioritized his health to a certain extent.
You have there my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo, but there are still questions being asked, particularly about who instructed the masked men to storm the NDC candidate's residence yesterday. Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante of the CDD Ghana wants authorities to provide answers.
At the end, every indication from reports from Kudeo observers is very clear that it was absolutely counterproductive, and there was issues with coordination. A lot of the security agencies were not talking to each other. They are not being prepped, together to work together. So it created even tensions among security operatives at the polls, and that is really a real worry. And if you can see a little bit of an indiscipline around some of these arrangements, and that raises a lot of questions about who is commanding, who is organizing, what the objectives of their presence is, and so on and so forth, what instructions people have been giving. Masked men in daylight, broad daylight at election polls, you are just creating an atmosphere for violence. Because how are we going to hold those people accountable if they misbehave? Everybody who is there legitimately by law to enforce the law and order should be identified so that they can be held accountable. The same way electoral officials, they don't come there masked. The police officers, immigration officers who are supposed to provide security, they don't come there masked. What is the objective of that?
You heard that Dr. Kojo Pumpini Asante is of the CDD. You recall that yesterday during the NDC's press conference, they called on a number of institutions to intervene in the matter, including the Peace Council. And we are privileged to be joined on the line by the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Emmanuel Asante. We're grateful for your time here on the Midday News. Are you also worried about the silence of authorities who are to speak on this matter?
I'm worried about the violence. I'm worried about the seeming lack of coordination among the security agencies. I'm worried about what we are doing to our democracy. I am worried about our international image.
Yeah, you were worried about all these, but I would want to find out from you, you've been 24 hours as a Peace Council. What kind of briefing have you received on what exactly led to what happened yesterday?
Nobody has briefed the Peace Council in respect of what is happening, but the Peace Council will do its own, conducting its own investigation, and at the appropriate time will come out. But at least we know that there was violence. We have seen the footage, and whatever it is, we are not happy with it, because we do not think that this should be the way we should go about our democratic, dispensation. That people should be threatened, people to the extent that people should have guns around them shooting at people, whatever differences or whatever provocation they may have, been provoked with. So as far as I'm concerned, I am disturbed, I am worried, and I hope that the police would definitely come up with investigation and deal with the perpetrators. But in addition to that, I think it is important for the commission to be set up to look into the entire security apparatus. What kind of relationship exists between the different wings? And who is what? And I got worried when I saw security agents, who they may be, wearing masks, because then it becomes very difficult even for people to identify them. And that is scary. I think it is something that there is a need for proper commission investigation, investigation to go about, so that such people could be brought to book and dealt with.
We are grateful for your time. That's the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Emmanuel Asante. We apologize for that poor quality in sound there also. But you're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM, 24 hours after yesterday's election violence at Baraleshia, the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. We are back on the ground and we've heard from residents. There's also mounting calls by civil society and the minority for the Interior Minister and IGP to answer questions about the perpetrators of the violence. Still to come, US steps up its standoff with Ghana over deportation a notch higher as it imposes visa restrictions on Ghana over what it says is the country's failure to cooperate. We have details after the break.
My name is Kwame Sefakai, and most of you know me as a media personality. But I am also a family man. The UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, saves me so much time by letting me do almost all of my banking transactions on my phone. The cardless withdrawal feature allows me to withdraw cash from any UMB ATM without an ATM card. I can also pay bills, transfer money, request for a loan, invest money, and so much more. So now, I can spend less time at the bank and more time with the ones I love. Bank anywhere and anytime with a UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, and get the time to do what you love most. Download the UMB Speed App from your Android, iOS, or Windows phone today. Call 0302-633-988 for more information. UMB Speed App, Digibank, let's go!
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Ridwan Ibrahim Asante has sports after that transfer deadline. What's in sports?
I had my eyes elsewhere on B1, B2 visas.
I know. We'll talk about it later.
We could wake up on Sunday morning to the good news that Richard Comey, has won the IBF lightweight title, but he has to outbox his Russian opponent Isa Shaniev. Come's manager Michael Amo-Bediako says a lot of work has been put in to ensure his ward comes out victorious.
The team will train 5 p.m. today because of the weather condition here.
Going into this fight, Richard has prepared very well, very diligently, had a great training camp with obviously his new trainer Andre Rosier. Everything's gone well. He's had some great sparring, strength and conditioning, and speaking to Richard earlier on today, he's very upbeat and very positive about his chances of victory.
There's more discussion on Come's prospects. That's coming up at 1 p.m. with the locker room when George Addo Jr. and his team, joins you. Also, this weekend on Sunday as well, Kumasi Asante Kotoko are in Sudan to play Al Hilal in their first CAF Confederation Cup group match. Insure FM's Nana Ajman is with the team.
The team will train 5 p.m. today. Because of the weather condition here, the team has acclimatized the weather, so they will train at 5 p.m. here today. And then tomorrow, they will also train the same time at the match venue. Then the game will come on Sunday, 4 p.m. Sudan time, which is 6 p.m. Ghana time. It's a 2-hour, so that is the plan, the plans for Asante Kotoko team so far.
You heard Kumasi Asante Kotoko's Insure FM's Nana Ajman reporting from Sudan, where Kotoko are playing. Also, on Sunday, the Black Settlers, that's the under-20 team, they are playing against Burkina Faso as we start the CAF Under-20 Cup of Nations. All the details coming your way at 1 p.m. on Locker Room.
And we're getting ready for the Kids Olympics as well. Ridwan, thank you very much for the latest from the world of sports. Now, if you have plans of traveling to the United States, you may want to pay attention to this, as the United States has imposed visa restrictions on Ghana over what it says is the lack of cooperation in accepting Ghanaians deported from the U.S. But where did this all start from? In May 2018, the U.S. announced that some 7,000 Ghanaian immigrants face deportation for visa-related offences, including staying illegally and overstaying their permits. But in an interview with Joy News, Ghana's ambassador to the U.S., Dr. Ejay Bewa, described as unfair pressure on him to sign for the deportation of his own citizens for alleged infractions of the U.S. laws.
If you brought me a list of names and asked me to sanction, their expulsion,
their deportation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It leaves me with a little bit of difficulty, and I've been trying to explain this, to the authorities. That
the U.S. authorities.
Yes, because you see, when in this case a Ghanaian enters the U.S. and the entry meant that the person presented some documents that were acceptable to the U.S. government, then at that point in time, there is a contract between the U.S. government and that particular Ghanaian. So if subsequently the U.S. decides that the U.S. is not sustaining that contract anymore for whatever reason, and that the person in that case should be deported, I have a difficulty understanding why I have to sanction that deportation. Because if that is what is to be done, I don't have to give the U.S. permission to deport the very person they themselves accepted. We having to sanction the deportation of our own citizens is unfair. I think asking an individual embassy to sanction
the deportation
of their own citizens is a certain kind of unreasonable request to make. But that is what we are operating now.
So you heard that Dr. Ejay Bewa, Ghana's ambassador to the U.S., in an earlier interview with my colleague Elton Brobe. Today, a statement to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo ordered embassy officers in Ghana to implement the visa restrictions. My colleague Kojo Yankson joins me in studio with the specifics of this restriction. Kojo, please tell me, does it affect every Ghanaian?
Well, let me start from this point, MFA. The statement from the United States Embassy begins by reminding Ghana of its obligation under the UN Convention on International Civil Aviation to issue the necessary travel documents to its citizens under deportation orders from another country. So this is something we've signed with several other countries, not just the United States. Then the U.S. goes to state their own law, Section 243D of the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, which says that when a country is determined to be denying or unreasonably delaying accepting the return of its nationals, the U.S. government institutes visa restrictions until the situation is resolved. Now, let me give you the specifics of who is affected. The first group of visas that are affected are called the A3 and G5 visas. These are visas given to non-immigrants. They are non-immigrant visas given to domestic employees of Ghanaian diplomats posted in the United States. Okay. Now, they go further to explain that they will process these A3 and G5 visa applications, but no visas will be issued in those categories while the restrictions remain in effect. Okay. Then the second group of visas that are affected are the B1, B2, and B1/B2 visas for all Ghanaian executive and legislative branch employees, their spouses, and their children under 21 to 1 month. So basically, they are restricting these visas to 1 month single entry visas. So essentially, if you're a member of parliament, if you're a minister, or any employee of the executive or an employee of parliament, or any of your family members, if you apply for a B1, B2, or B1/B2 visa, you will only be given a month. That is, if you are approved. You will only be given a month, and you must return within that 1 month. So the people affected by these restrictions are basically members of parliament and employees of parliament, as well as members of the executive and employees of the executive and their families, not forgetting diplomats currently in the United States.
Thank you very much, Kojo, for that breakdown. But the Foreign Affairs Ministry says it is working out to respond to this matter later. But as we wait for that response, let's speak to Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Mr. Frank Kano-Domprey. We are grateful for your time here on the Midday News. Did we see this coming? It looks like we've lost Mr. Frank Kano-Domprey on the line. We'll try again. Do we have Mr. Kano-Domprey on the line? Hello, sir. Okay, we seem to have lost him on the line, but we'll definitely get to speak to him on this matter shortly. But still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. And the lack of ICT facilities in schools has been considered a problem for rural communities. But it appears the challenge is playing out strongly right here in Accra, where many schools do not have computers for ICT training. And the Independence Avenue Junior High School is no exception. Well, the Accra Central Library is now providing students of the school the opportunity to learn about computers. Henry Kwesi Bedu followed Deputy Minister for Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, to take a tour of the facility and met the students.
Inside the Accra Central Library, a platoon of workers are milling to and fro, fixing the facility. Painters on the walls, masons doing some plastering work, and a few laborers assisting. Elsewhere inside the library, there is the ICT corner. And here, dozens of school children from the Independence Avenue Junior High School are seated behind the computers. They've got their teachers with them to provide assistance. With no ICT centers in their school, this library offers a perfect venue to learn about computers. Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, interacted with them.
I help you get a computer lab so that you don't always have to come. When you come here, you should come and read.
The Ghana Library Authority has launched a campaign to boost reading across Ghana. Acting Director Hefo Tiang speaks about this.
The Ghana Library Authority, as part of its strategic objective to support quality education in Ghana, has declared 2019 as the year of reading to encourage people to know about the new transformation, the new materials that we are having on our shelves so that they can patronize it.
The Deputy Minister says government will assist the efforts by the authority.
Ghana Education Services partnership with the Library Authority will actually help improve reading outcomes. Reading outcomes in our schools are nothing to write home about. And I believe that this is a great opportunity. I've looked at many things that they are doing. The fact that students can come here as a class, as individuals, to read, use their ICT resources is something that we need to commend them for. And I believe that the Ghana Education Service partnering with the Library Authority will truly serve the nation well.
The Ghana Library Authority is looking to revamp other facilities across the country as part of efforts to sensitize Ghanaians to nurture a reading culture and encourage them to be readers. Henry Kwesi Bedu's report for Joy News.
And it's time now to check out what's trending on social media. Mapito, what's trending?
Well, the first 4 trends is first one is hashtag Life Be Time, second one is Mahama, third one is Shatawale, and the fourth one is hashtag Happy New Month. Hashtag Life Be Time is Shatawale's new song that he just released, and at hashtag Happy New Month at Access says new month means refreshment and reboot, going to this month with fresh ideas and enthusiasm. Also, former President Mahama is trending for some of the comments he made, but at Vicky1 says bye January, hello February, never been so happy to see the end of the month. Hashtag Happy New Month.
Thank you. And that's it for the midday news here on Joy 99.7 FM. Our top story: the Peace Council of Ghana is calling for proper coordination of security forces in the country to avert the Bawaleshi kind of violence in the future. Also, the minority wants a bipartisan probe as they prepare to quiz the IGP later today. I am Emefa Apau. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good weekend.